Ba, 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 ba. Let's see. I may never march in the infantry, ride in the cavalry, shoot the artillery. I may never fly o'er the enemy, but I'm in the Lord's army. Yes, sir. It is 9:02 a.m. U.S. Pacific Standard Time here in Los Angeles. And we will be talking about Stop Thief! There's this Jewish guy, white guy, Jewish guy, who stopped a Jamaican thief somewhere in America who was shoplifting a bunch of lotions and toiletries stuff mess. So right on to him. Hey, no more choo 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 choo. I'm reading the chat. So right on to that guy, I guess. CNN transgender propaganda. I'm shaking my head. It's from July of this year. And some other things going on in the world. And your calls, guys, if you'd like to call in. I do want to share, I've been meaning to share this tweet from this gal who was on the Fallen State this past week. Karen Kaiser, Keiser, Washington State Senator. American Anchor Baby has talked about her too. She destroyed her marriage for become a Washington State Senator. But she tweeted about that Kate Cox gal who's left the state of Texas to kill the unborn child within her. God's unborn child inside of her. Seems emotional, living in your imagination for comfort and convenience and fear. Anyway, so hopefully all that and your calls, guys, if you'd like to call in. But anyway, everybody, let's get right on with the show!
1, 2, 3, 4. Oh, it's the Hake Report. The Hake Report. La la la. Oh, it's the Hake Report. The Hake Report. La la la.
Hey, guys!
Oh, it's the Hake Report. The Hake Report. La la la. Oh, it's the Hake Report. The Hake Report. La la la.
So, how you guys doing? I am fine. Just got a normal my California t-shirt on. You see it? It's all right. It's pretty cool. Or it was cool a few years ago. Was that Hake? Yes. That was me. You know, right off the bat, I'd like to get to a call or two here before we get into these stories. Joe in Phoenix, Arizona, has a comment on some evil going on in this country to this day. What is up, Joe in Phoenix, Arizona? How are you doing?
Good morning, James.
Good morning.
Doing well, thank you.
Nice.
Okay, yesterday you said that Obamacare was socialism in part because of the mandate that everyone has health care.
Right. And it's not even health care, it's just so-called insurance.
Yeah, it's health insurance.
Yeah.
So you understand why the mandate was needed?
Nope. It was not needed. I understand I understand the claim from the liberals.
What's the claim, James?
That there are freeloaders who are using the emergency room for their regular, ordinary treatment, and that's creating a burden on the people. We might as well make everybody pay. And the young people are not paying, and the older people are starting to outnumber the younger people because we have this socialist system that encourages people to birth control away from not having children. And so the young people are not subsidizing the lives of the old people enough.
That's how insurance works. But, there were approximately 48 million people before the ACA that didn't have insurance who were using emergency rooms. I mean, they still got health care.
Yeah.
They still went, but you and I and every other taxpayer were paying for that. So what's wrong with forcing them to pay their own way, James?
Because you're forcing everybody to, they're not actually paying their own way. It's still being subsidized. And when you do that, you're not solving the problem. You're addressing symptoms and not getting to the root issue, which is freeloaders and stuff like that. Responsibility. It's not spreading responsibility. It's not pushing people to be responsible for themselves. It's
not
enabling irresponsibility. And
by
it's
forcing them to get their own health care?
Yes. Because it's not their
That's
own health care.
them?
It's not their own health care.
Well, okay, so subsidies you mentioned. You
don't give them this stuff for free. You put them in debtor's prison. There's many things that you can do because there's a whole lot of people who are getting their lives subsidized, including with this Obamacare stuff.
So subsidies there. Let's talk about that.
Yeah.
Are you aware that was a year-to-year thing, or it is a year-to-year thing?
What do you mean by that?
And it means that, you have to have an extremely low income to get a high level of subsidies on the ACA. And that is tracked on a year-to-year basis. So if you do well in year 2, then you get less subsidies. And if you get past a certain threshold, which I forget the number now, but then you don't get any subsidies. So you are incented to do better, to get off of those subsidies and get your own health insurance and pay for it yourself.
It doesn't matter. You're still being forced to buy something that you don't necessarily need. A lot of young people don't need this stuff. And then on top of it, it's the government micromanaging and meddling. You already know that it's the nanny state. I thought you didn't like the nanny state. And they're also forcing employers. They're forcing employers to subsidize people's so-called health care insurance, including birth control. That's insane. That's not health. That's not health care. Birth control is not health care.
That paying for immoral people's birth control, but I'd rather have them not having babies than having babies and being irresponsible for it. But
no, I want them to be irresponsible with it and have the babies.
Why?
Because you're giving a false dilemma. You're saying, oh, they'll have the baby and be irresponsible for it, but you're living in your imagination. You don't know what they would do. I'd rather take the risk of them being irresponsible with it, and them going to prison for neglect or whatever.
Why? That costs you and I more money as taxpayers.
No, they're enslaved, and then they're going to create more value. And when they have that threat, then they'll be forced to be responsible, not have the government micromanaging and meddling. And you admitted yourself that the Obamacare thing was a love letter to the insurance companies. So,
yes, they had record profits. Absolutely.
Exactly.
So by definition, it's not socialism.
Yes, it is. That's commie capitalism.
Private companies getting record profits. That's not socialism.
It is socialism, man. The heck.
Oh,
that's government. That's government involving in people's lives, taking away their freedoms.
Do you understand how insurance works, James?
Yes.
So, even the CBO, the nonpartisan CBO, said that the ACA did slow the rising cost of health insurance.
No, that's dumb. That's dumb.
It's just
the nonpartisan CBO slowed the rising cost of health insurance. The government was already over-involved. That's why it was rising.
The government was not
Yes, it was.
involved.
It's involved in...
No, it's not.
Yes, it is. It's involved in subsidizing the pharmaceutical stuff and all that. They're meddling in the healthcare mess. That's why it was rising in cost.
Now, yes.
What?
James, is there a better answer? You have to have everyone paying in to keep costs low. There's no other answer than that.
There's no other answer than Obamacare, forcing people to pay insurance who don't need it?
Just like seatbelts.
And forcing businesses to subsidize people. You're forcing businesses to subsidize people. That is socialism.
How are businesses subsidizing people?
Businesses, if these people work full-time, they have to get health insurance from that business. Businesses shouldn't have to pay for people's health insurance.
They do not.
Then why were they cutting people's hours under Obamacare? People's hours were being cut because these employers didn't want to have to pay for their insurance. Are you not aware of this?
I think I misunderstood how you phrased it there. So yes, businesses, if you have a certain amount of full-time people, do have to provide health care, yes.
Yeah, so there were people's hours were getting cut. People lost their, if you like your doctor, you can keep your doctor. No, you couldn't. A whole lot of people lost their doctors.
The vast majority kept. Some lost, but the vast majority kept their doctor.
The majority doesn't matter. He said if you like your doctor, you can keep your doctor.
James, again, there's no better answer.
Now you're blind. You're a socialist, communist.
Yeah,
I'm not surprised. I already knew what you were. You're a snake.
Yeah,
you're a snake wolf in sheep's clothing into the black thing and thinking that you're being practical.
I'm into the black thing.
Yes, you are.
Yeah, you have a civil conversation with a neo-Nazi and you don't say he's into his white thing. That's just amazing, James.
But who cares? He's not pushing falsehoods like a snake.
Oh, he absolutely is.
Like a snake
100%.
wolf in sheep's clothing. And now
you
you're changing the subject away from yourself. You think Obamacare was the best answer, forcing people to buy insurance and
it was
ensuring
a good first step.
And ensuring abortion, transgender, pushing transgender stuff in the military and the prisons.
So your answer is debtor's prison, huh? That's brilliant, James. Brilliant.
Yeah, thank you. In slavery too.
That was sarcasm. There's a reason why.
Because you're not a sensible person. You think like a woman.
You don't understand history. Debtor's prison was a thing, and now it's not for good reasons, Jeff.
No, it's not. It's not for good reasons. Put them in slavery. Huh?
You first, James. You're already in slavery, by the way.
I know, because I'm living in a socialist country thanks to people like you who think that you're a black conservative, and
because you're an employee.
You pretend to be a Christian. You pretend to be a Christian, and you're justifying abortion President Obama and transgender subsidizing.
And Obama was against abortion.
And transgender subsidizing President Obama.
Don't try to tar me with the transgender nonsense. I don't support any of that.
Yes, you do. That's Obamacare.
Wrong.
Yes, it is.
And as far as Congress and the neo-Nazis,
Obama was a great president. He put transgenders in the military. Resolution
4977, they're going after them in the military and the law enforcement.
Huh?
And Department of Homeland Security is partnering with the FBI to really target those neo-Nazis. So, idiot Mark in California, keep on praising Commander Rockwell. Keep on putting it out there.
Who, Norman Rockwell?
After you, buddy. They're coming after you.
Talking about Norman Rockwell?
So, that's just fantastic that he calls in and
Are you talking about Norman Rockwell?
His usual snake self. Quit trying to interrupt, James. You know what I'm
Are you talking about Norman Rockwell?
The painter?
Yeah. Yes.
So,
Norman Rockwell.
Keep it up, Mark. Keep it up, Mark. Keep up your lies and your stupid low IQ.
I gotta go. He's being nasty. Thank you for your call. You communist. Appreciate your call, man. You're going crazy. Don't fall for the Obamacare thing. Don't fall for it. If you left people to their own devices, let's get rid of the socialist safety net, then people would have to take care of themselves. Part of the reason that society is in decline is because people are getting more and more spoiled. Obamacare had so-called children under their parents' health insurance if they were in the house at the age of 26. Talk about keeping men immature. And subsidizing birth control. The great Congressman Steve King said, we don't need to be subsidizing birth control. We're having a problem of not having enough babies. Not having enough babies means socialism is going to collapse in on itself. Duh! But anyway, let me get to Frank, a first-time caller in California. No. Frank, thanks for calling, man, and holding. What's up?
Yeah. How you doing, Frank? Not Frank. How you doing, Hake? Man, I'm a big fan, but what I'd say right now is too many Americans are they're too preoccupied with getting taken care of by the state.
Yeah.
Because,
yeah,
I
and then
mean,
there's suckers who feel sorry for them and want to support it.
Exactly, and like, well, yeah, it's just insane. And the last caller, I mean, he sounds like he's a communist completely, but
I know, but he
Yeah,
considers
one
himself a black conservative.
no, one thing I'd say about Christianity is Christianity, even Christ, was a lot of people have this misconception about Christ, like he was a soft guy. I'd say he was a tough guy because he had the time where he went and destroyed people and flipped over tables and smacked them. I'd say he wouldn't want us to be weak, and
True.
you know what I'm saying? Like, want to be taken care of by somebody else. Because I'm a guy that lives by myself, and it's really hard, especially when I'm working every day. But yeah, I'd say that last caller was a little delusional, and he wants to be a little bit like he wants the state to be his daddy.
Right, and he knows better than that. But you know, people are blind when they're when they're excited to see. I think part of it is he was excited to see a well-spoken black man take office, and he's fooled by the intellectual false reasonableness of the intellectuals.
And I feel a lot with my race too, because I'm a Mexican guy, but I shouldn't even said that. But I'd say that like everyone wants to be like, oh, like you're this minority, you're that. It's like, dude, no, my best friends were white.
Right.
Like I've had some of the best people that treated me the best were white, and it's like it's not about that. What it is about, it's about kind of just getting up for yourself and just not relying on anybody.
Right.
But when you do rely on people, sometimes people will pay off because it's like there's people that will baby you.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Especially when you're in the world.
But there's a whole lot of things that you can rely on people for a little help here and there when they have an expertise that you don't have.
But for what though?
And
like
you ask them for help. I'm talking about help in terms of help me do this thing on the computer. I'm a boomer. I don't understand it. And
oh, definitely, yeah.
And stuff like that. Like it's good to learn it yourself, but it's also helpful to people help one another out.
I'd say
freely, not by the evil government.
Yeah, no, exactly, and like, yeah, whenever you take like any kind of support like that, I'd say like whenever you want to ask someone for something, it's for something that's really minuscule.
Right.
But once you start asking for someone for too much as a man, as a grown man, because I'm a grown man, you're a grown man too.
Yeah.
It starts to feel weird.
Yeah.
You're kind of like, I depend on you for this and that. It just doesn't feel right.
Yeah.
I'd say the internet has everything you have to learn about, like something like that. But,
that's so true. You know, there's stuff that I'm like, Nick, but I could actually learn probably a lot of this stuff to take care of myself, you know?
Yeah, no, totally. But like, you know, like, I don't mean to put them on the spot, but it's like, with the colored people, I'll put the blacks and the Mexicans in the same spot.
Yeah.
But like, it's like they think that they're owed something.
Right.
They think that like, you know what I'm saying? Like, it's like, oh, like, but like this might be a little spicy take, and everyone online might be like, but we're a little low IQ.
Yeah, I mean,
think about how the Spaniards came and took over the Aztecs. The Spaniards were white people that spoke Spanish.
Right.
And they came over to Mexico, and the Aztecs spoke whatever, but they kind of helped us out a little bit. And some of my best friends were white, but a lot of these people are like, oh, like Mexicans have too much pride and blacks have too much pride. I'll say more Mexicans because I'm Mexican.
Uh-huh.
And I'd be like, we have a lot of pride, but I don't have pride, but a lot of them do have pride. And it's like, bro, like just take the pride down and let's just learn from.
You mean pride in their Mexicanity?
Exactly. They think they know a little bit more.
Yeah. True.
But the American Anchor Baby, because I do watch him too. He's a very intellectual Mexican. He's kind of like me.
Right. Yep.
And I do think about, but that's a very few. It's like we're like one in the jar out of 100. You know what I'm saying? Because I'm surrounded by a lot of cholos. My family's a lot of cholos, but it's like, dude, like
that's funny.
I don't associate with that. But
yeah,
you know what I'm saying? Like I think that we have to move along intellectually and just have to find our own intellect, and maybe evolution will take place. I don't believe in evolution really, but I'm like, how do we move beyond being idiots? You know what I'm saying?
Yep.
Yeah, just like the last guy. The last guy, he's really combative. I'm the kind of guy that's not that combative, but a lot of people are very combative that are of Mexican heritage, like me.
Combative. Just one.
Exactly.
Yep. Not combative, combative.
Yeah, combative, whatever the word is.
Yeah.
I'm not that smart.
No, you're fine. That's not
just the
smartness. That's just knowledge. But anyway.
Exactly. Yeah. I like to speak in layman's terms. I like to speak in layman's terms, so you speak me. But this last weekend, I was hanging out with this guy, and we were talking about Palestine and Israel. And I brought up Israel. I'm like, Israel's not that bad. You know, I have my growths with the Jews. You know, I've said this and that. But I'm like, bro, like the Palestine people or the Hamas.
Did you say you have your? You said you had your gropes with the Jews? Do you mean your gripes with the Jews?
Gripes, gropes. Yeah. See,
gripes.
I'm not.
No problem. I just wanted to clarify.
Yeah. But like, you know what I'm saying? Like, I think about like how they're holy. But then, we were talking. I was like, bro, who's the greater evil? They're destroying. I don't want to get too much because I don't know what we can say on the line, but it's like like the Hamas is destroying Jews. When have Jews done what Hamas has done to the Jews? They haven't.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't even really necessarily like to compare the evil because there's evil on many sides, and lots of times the woman likes to play innocent, and the man might hit the woman after she does something really evil and then plays innocent. And it looks like the man's the bad guy because he blacked into her eye.
I seen a fight just like that with like some Marines in Texas a couple weeks ago. There was some Marines in Texas that got beat up by some black guys.
Wow, Marines.
And when I watch the video, I'll send you the link later. But the video, you see the black lady punch at the Marines first, and I'm like, dude, that's why, as a Mexican dude, they're race war dude, but I'm like, bro, I cannot, I have to, I love black people. Trust me, I've met a lot of black people, but they are kind of a little more violent, and they're a little bit more sporadic. So are Mexicans, too.
Wow.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. So are you talking about this incident last month, late November, Marines in dress blues brawled with civilians?
In Texas.
In Austin.
Texas. In Austin, Texas. You'll watch that video. You can pull it up for your people, but you'll see in the video, if you watch really closely, the girl is egging it on, and one of the black guys smacks her with the backhand. And it's like, wow, but then all of a sudden they get worked on by those Marines, because why would you fight Marines? You know what I'm saying? They're trained to kill.
Oh, so the Marines beat the blacks in this instance. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, but
that's not really a good look, because they're in uniform getting in fights with civilians. I know that
they had to do what they had to do. And a lot of people that are Americans kind of like it. You know what I'm saying?
I forgot I have a guest today. Ooh.
Oh, no problem. Yeah.
No worries.
No problem.
Okay. So,
we're getting a little spicy on the conversation.
Man, that's terrible. Go ahead. Let's wrap it up here.
Yeah. I'm just saying that, it's all about. I think what it is like a lot of Mexicans speak bad for what's going on intellectually with a lot of people, but I'm one of the few that is very calm. I practice calmness.
Yeah.
And you know what I'm saying? All it is, it's about no matter thinking about Christ and just thinking that at least I have salvation. Because I've been with a lot of people that's you know what I'm saying? They'll be mad, but it's because they're atheists. Yeah. I hang out with a lot of atheists, I hang out with a lot of people, but it's I feel like they get more angry. But even a lot of Christians get angry too. But I think it's just all about being level-headed.
Okay. Yeah, I agree with you, man. Man, Frank, I'm distracted now. I gotta run. Call me again tomorrow.
No problem.
Let's talk again.
I'll call you whenever.
All right.
I'll call you next week.
Sounds good, man.
All right, later.
All right.
Yeah, later.
Take care. Yeah. Oh, man. So if you're able to pull up the Discord and connect my guest, I was supposed to have Dylan Burns on today, and I blanked on it. Terrible. Dylan Burns of the Hippy Dippy Roundtable. I've been on his show. He's been on mine. So stay tuned for that. I got to get to Austin in North Carolina in the meantime. Okay, Austin in North Carolina. Thanks for calling, man. Thanks for holding. You're live with Hake.
Hey, Hake. Just calling about the Rizz. the conversation y'all had yesterday.
Yeah,
When
on the
you had
Jesse
the
Lee
Hake.
Peterson show, and actually on the Hake report,
Yeah.
somebody talked about Rizz, and so
And the crying
Rizz is
Asian
short for.
boy.
Hold on, Rizz is short for charisma, but it's also made by Zoomers to push not just plain charisma, but charisma with the ladies specifically, with men. Okay.
Yeah.
What's your... And I was talking about, oh, yeah, Hassan and I have Rizz, and Joel can turn it on and off. And then Jesse said it's evil. Especially if it's
Yeah, I
something you
agree
turn
with
on and off.
Jesse.
You agree with him?
Yeah, I agree with Jesse.
Were you familiar with it
I
before?
think- what?
Were you familiar with the term Rizz before?
No, but I know what y'all are talking about.
Yeah.
I see it as just being fake.
Yeah.
And the women, they can sense it. They're just not bold enough to call you out on it.
Oh, yeah, that's true. I've seen guys so phony with the ladies. I'm like, oh. And, you know, it's hard not to judge them because people are judgmental, right? But I can see right through your phony Rizz. That's interesting.
Mm-hmm.
Some of them are better than others. More natural about it.
And my ex, it come out of her mouth one day about me. I guess I was, showing that. But she said, I feel like you're trying so hard to be real that you're just fake.
Interesting. Wow.
Uh-huh. And it blew over my head at the time, but I think back on it, I say, she was on to something.
Yeah, that's true.
And
Yeah.
that Asian boy crying, there's something he said about...
the Asian boy on the Jason Lee Peterson show yesterday, there was this Asian guy named something so Liddy or something like that. Yeah.
And he mentioned...
Kev, short
girls,
for Kevin.
Girls cheating on him, stuff.
Yep.
He said girls are cheating on him. And I doubt he has any kids, because if he did, he wouldn't be crying about the woman anymore.
Yeah. Yeah, that's true.
You know,
He seems like a young guy caught up in the certain time of his life, women and shallow things. And later on in life, he will look back. I've thought about that. Different things that have been bothering me in my life and days. I look back, I'm like, why was that bothering me? And it should show you that nothing should bother you. You shouldn't be caught up with anything. It's not that important.
Yeah. But I've been there where he's at, but I made sure nobody would watch me, and I damn sure wouldn't put it on the internet.
Yeah, I know. How old are you, if you don't mind my asking? You 30s, 40s, 50s? What? 20s?
30.
Okay.
30.
Right on, man. Well, you're old school. You're more sensible than a lot of the rest of us.
I reckon.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I think it's all right for if you're dating. It's all right for the girl to be dating around on you or whatever, because you gotta find who's best fit, best.
That's an interesting
qualified.
point. You're saying
Qualified.
You're saying it should be fine for a girl to date more than one guy at a time?
That's right, but that only before any babies start popping out.
Right. No ring, no commitment.
Yeah, but when she has that first baby, that's when she needs to cling on to the father of that baby.
Right.
And all the rest of the men just need to leave her alone.
For sure. I totally agree with that, man. And ideally, she's married before the baby comes. Before she has the S word, sex.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And,
but I think that's some...
that,
Go ahead.
Yeah, I was saying before that, we should be all right with them, talking to other guys or whatever, even if we bring them to a party or something, because they got to find the best qualified, and it might not be you.
Right.
It just happens to be with you at the time.
Interesting point. Wow.
And if it's bothering us, it's the only way it's a problem is if emotions are involved.
Yup. Very true. That false pride,
Yeah.
that ego, that's satanic.
And I've been there too, but I look back and see, they're supposed to be like that. They got to find who's going to be the best,
Yeah.
And the same with the men. It should be all right for us to date more than one. Or I say it's all right for us to have as many wives as we can handle.
Oh, really? Are you black or
But
white, Austin?
I'm white.
Okay.
I called you from Arizona a while back.
Okay.
But women, they should only have one husband.
Right.
But the man, he ought to be able to have as many as he can handle.
I
That means more. That means more babies.
I differ with you on that one, man. That one is because then the man's interests are divided. It's I don't think that's wise. But let's talk on that another time. Austin in North Carolina. Great call. Very interesting.
All right.
All right. Appreciate you, man.
Yes, sir.
All right. Take care. All right, let me get to William in California on the line while we try to connect with Dylan Burns.
Yeah.
Hey, William in California, how you doing, man?
How you doing, man? Hey, right on, Austin.
You agree with having multiple wives?
I wouldn't have multiple wives. I just like his call.
Oh, okay. Nice.
Yeah.
I liked his call, too. He sounded kind of old school.
Yeah, he did. Hey, God, it was tipping my tongue. Oh, hey, David in Ocala. I've been to Ocala. There's a museum there, a racing museum. We go to Gainesville, and there's a track and raceway with Gainesville Raceway there. I've been there. That's the Art Malone and Don Garlick's museum. I've been to that place. Shout out.
Yeah, cool. Right on. David in Ocala. He's a nice guy.
Yeah.
You wanted to talk about Obamacare?
Yeah. That's what it was. I do think, with all due respect, I think it is like a form of communism.
Yeah, I totally agree, man.
Because
it's a stepping stone, just like this subverted capitalism. It's a stepping stone to communism.
Right.
It's not opposite.
I mean, the people that were okay. It does seem like it's kind of top heavy.
I want to bring in my guest. Can you unmute Dylan Burns? I have my guest with me, William, in California. I'm curious to get Dylan Burns. Are you there? Can you hear me, man?
Yeah, I can hear you okay. Hake, how you doing?
Doing well. I don't know if you heard any of my conversation about Obamacare with earlier in this show. I apologize. I totally forgot that you were coming on today.
It's okay. I understand. Everybody's forgetting about the war in Ukraine. Even Hake.
Indeed. Do you agree with William and me that Obamacare is kind of communist?
Not really. It's not a communist program to me. It still works with private healthcare companies. It does not concentrate at all on workers owning the means of production. It seems to be mostly focused on trying to supplement a market failure of people not being covered by health insurance in this country, either because they cannot afford it or because it's just, they, for whatever reason, they were unable to get health insurance. But I don't know what specifically about Obamacare would be communist.
Oh, okay. William, what were you going to say? What were you going to say on Obamacare?
Good morning, Dylan. Dylan, how you doing?
I'm doing okay.
Good. The part that I kind of look at is that it's kind of top heavy, and it doesn't really help the older people as much. I noticed when it came out, and it helped a lot of younger people that didn't need so much health insurance. I really didn't think about health insurance when I was 22. I probably had it, but didn't really think about it, and I surely wasn't a grown-up at 26. And a lot of those people that had jobs at Walmart during Obama's years, they were working under 37-hour jobs. And when you're 37 hours, what do you think happens after that?
I don't think Obamacare should have been
They
the.
have to get Obamacare. Because you know, if you pay 40 hours, you have to. Walmart has to pay for those health care plans.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, see, that wasn't necessarily
So
working
it's kind
with.
of like a mandate. You know what I'm saying, Dylan? It's like you mandated into something, and it's not necessarily cheaper either.
Just because something is mandated doesn't necessarily make it communist. You could say that something is, like, for example, you saying something's top heavy, or you could say something's like bureaucratic.
What does top heavy mean?
Well, I guess I assume when he said top heavy, he meant that it's the government having a top-down approach. If we are ordering you to do this, you're going to do this.
Part.
I assume that's what he meant. But I can understand somebody
the rich
coming from
subsidizing the poor, so-called.
That kind of stuff too.
Yeah, but that's a social program, and social programs aren't necessarily communist.
Oh yes, they are.
We've just because you use social, but there's nothing about a social program that necessarily makes it communist.
Okay,
when Marx was talking about communism,
you can say in evil.
If you want to call it that, if you want to say like, oh, it's
first it was called
like
universal
that,
care, right?
But I feel like we're treating communism, kind of like. We're treating it very loosely here.
Yes.
Like everything from Stalin's Soviet Union when he was seizing all of the food and he's, rounding up all of the bourgeois and, putting them on the wall, shooting them, executing them. Like that's communist everything to a public option or Obamacare is communist. It's just such a wide net that it makes me uncomfortable because we're watering down this word that I think has actual meaning, both to the people who adhere to it and when you're trying to describe historical political movements. And I mean, if this is communist, if this counts as communist, then we'd have to say that any social program would count as semi-communist or communist.
Yes.
And if any social programs counts as communist, semi-communist, or communist, then Social Security is communist.
Yes.
You can make the argument that the police force is communist because that is wealthy people could very easily pay for their own private security on their own properties while not paying for cops to go into lower income neighborhoods to patrol them and try to stop the crime in those communities. My question would then become, what action of the state, if it's related to rich people paying a larger amount to help poor people, wouldn't be considered communist, which would cover a large swath of what the state is meant to do.
Well, I don't know if William from California agrees with me on me calling it all communism. William, I want to give you a fair shot at this. You were addressing him, and I jumped in with the communism thing, and I kind of derailed you guys' conversation.
Yeah.
If you want, I could give you what I want for healthcare currently, or at least this is what I want to pursue right now is a public option, to have a public competing government option with the private options to make them more competitive, make it so they have to compete against that government option. So not only is the government option going to offer not a free option, but a cheap option, an affordable option for working class people, it'll also make the private companies have to compete harder, and we'll have to make them bring down their prices in reaction to a public option being made available to Americans. And I think that's a very moderate healthcare approach. But would that be considered communist because it is technically a social program, even if people still are paying into it, still have to, pay the healthcare services, they're still working with private companies and a capitalist system?
I wouldn't be for it because it's a mess. What do you say, William, though? Because I want to let you get in.
You should get the wheels moving. I think that as long as something doesn't affect private insurance, because that's the biggest part I've seen about the Obamacare is the mandation and taxing people and penalizing people for not wanting to be a part of it, and taking the freedom out of the hands of the American people.
Does that make sense?
I understand I understand why people have a problem with the mandate, the idea of the government telling them to get
just like the mandation of this global warming thing, you know, that a lot of people don't believe in, and that's their freedom to not believe in it.
I would say that there is
of the EV that's not working, and that nobody wants. And we were just talking about that the other day about automobiles and taxation on, you know, the junking of these very nasty vehicles. That just mandating anything on the American public is just something I don't agree with.
Hey, I do agree that mandating it definitely is the top-heavy approach as you described. But I would also say that while, of course, I understand that people are definitely annoyed at the healthcare being mandated. And again, Obamacare is not how I would approach government healthcare. Saying that as a non-expert on government healthcare, but it's not the plan that I would put forward.
I'm always less government. That's just me. You know.
I do want to say that when we're talking about freedom, nobody can really enjoy the freedoms of the United States, whether it comes to freedom of expression, freedom of the press, or any of the things that I appreciate about being in the United States that makes it freer than other countries. Our enshrinements of the First Amendment being much stronger. None of these freedoms that I like about America, I wouldn't be able to enjoy them if I'm dead. If I can't afford health insurance, if I feel sick, but I know I don't have the money to pay for it, so then I don't go to the doctor, and so my disease or whatever issue I has continues to develop. A lot of people die every year, not necessarily even because, you know, they didn't catch it in time or they couldn't afford to go to the doctor, but because they didn't want to spend what little savings they have to go get a checkup when it might end up being nothing. And then they just wasted $300, $400,
it's always been.
$500.
But you know what, Dylan? Some of these things have already been there. It was called Medicare. It's the same thing.
The problem is, though, even with Medicare, 33,000 Americans, and this is old data. I think the number's actually larger now, but I'm just going on the data that I know is true, which is older. Which 33,000 Americans dying every year due to lack of health insurance because they didn't get preventative care. They felt something in their stomach. It's like, oh, that feels bad, but I can't afford it, or I don't want to go spend. You know, I can't take time off of work. Few weeks later, they have cancer. Could have dealt with it later. Could have dealt with it earlier. Could have maybe saved their life. Who knows? A lot of people die every year because of that. And I understand not wanting a program to be mandated.
But Dylan, I do want to.
Hold
on, William. Let him finish.
Let me finish my point.
Go ahead.
I gotta finish my point because this is what I'm building up to.
Yeah, go ahead. Yeah, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
While I can understand somebody not liking the idea of the government telling you have to have health insurance, I, at the end of the day, don't think anybody can enjoy any of the freedoms of the United States if they're caught up by this market failure, which is what I think that a lack of health, people being trapped by medical companies into continuing to pay these exorbitant fees after they could have gotten preventative care much earlier. I think that's what happens to a lot of working class people. And then they're not able to enjoy financial freedom. They're not able to enjoy their lives. They're stuck in a medical bed, and they might have lost their life when they could have enjoyed their freedom. So I think that even though I understand why you have a problem with it being mandated, at the end of the day, I do think universal coverage is a goal the United States should strive towards to deal with that problem.
I'm going to end it with this. I think the term "you are owed this" is the biggest misconception.
Yeah.
I'm going to go ahead and let everything go on that. And Dylan, it's good to talk to you again.
Good to talk to you, too. You have a nice one.
All right. Take care.
Thank you, William. Appreciate it. This is Dylan Burns, guys. Dylan Burns TV on YouTube, and I don't know where else you're streaming right now. Are you on
Twitch? I stream on Twitch, and then I put the stuff on YouTube. I'm demonetized on YouTube, so don't stream there yet.
Oh, okay. Man, that's still ongoing, huh? What a pain.
Yep. For another month.
Okay, hopefully that gets worked out, man. It's Dylan Burns 1776 on Twitter. He also has Dylan Burns TV on Twitter, and I've been on Hippy Dippy Roundtable many times. I've been on. We've had you on a number of times now talking about the Ukraine mess. I wanted to talk about this communism thing. A lot of what you just described with William from California on the phone earlier about the Obamacare and universal health care and what you call the market failure is kind of like what I see all of communism, if you will, or maybe I'll just throw out that term since you don't like it, but I call it communism. is to overwhelm the system, break it, say that it's not working, and then revamp it into your image, which is universal so-called healthcare, taking care of everybody and all that stuff. We're seeing that with the border, destroying the meaning of the border, basically, overwhelming the system. We're seeing crime going further and further out of control. We're seeing people's being angry and hateful towards one another, so they're trying to bring in these fake hate crime laws, taking away the freedom of speech. We're seeing the healthcare industry further and further meddled with, overrun with people coming in and taking advantage of the free services. And it's increased irresponsibility, but instead of getting to the root issue, which is being responsible, law and order, containing people, encouraging them to be more moral rather than more immoral and dishonest and cheating the system and all that stuff. Having children, should be having children, not having children, so that we can have, because children used to be that they produced value. They didn't cost so much, but now they're costing because a whole lot of people are not adding value to society, so they're draining society. All of that is giving the excuse to just turn America more into Europe, which is also self-destructing.
So when I was in Europe, I gotta say that I didn't really talk to many people who were jealous of our healthcare system. There might be specific people who were talking about like, oh, there's this, healthcare development or scientific development in the United States, or, if you're extraordinarily wealthy, you'll be able to do well in the United States. But I didn't meet many Europeans that were jealous of the American healthcare system. And I was also in a war zone. And when talking to those people who were actively, having their healthcare systems strained by the war, healthcare centers bombed, they were still not that jealous of the American healthcare system. We spend a tremendous amount of money for, relatively speaking, not the best care, considering as how many people die every year due to lack of healthcare coverage. You would think if we're spending so much more than other relatively wealthy nations that are comparable to the United States when it comes to GDP, standards of living, and development, that spending all this much more money, being the wealthiest nation in the United States, investing so much in research and development and how much the government puts into the medicine, that we would be striding way past the European powers. We have much more medical developments in the United States, investment into medical research, yet we're not.
Right. It's just like with education. We're blowing all this money in education, and we have the worst education for at least the normal American citizens, young people, ever. And they're trying to make it even worse.
The problem for me, though, is the solution to dealing with those thousands of people who die every year because they didn't go to the doctor's office because they couldn't think they could afford it, or the people who are still left uncovered in many states across the country. I don't think the solution is to just tell them to be responsible and pull themselves up by their bootstraps. I do think that we kind of have to create market conditions that allows them to be able to get affordable healthcare options and be covered if we're going to get anywhere close to universal coverage, let alone universal coverage itself, which is probably going to have to come with some broad stroke federal healthcare program, like a public option or some other top-down, top-heavy approach.
But you're ignoring my point that they purposely destroyed the system by overrunning the system with all these immigrants, taking advantage of this.
At what point was the healthcare system working? At what point did it become broken?
I don't know. I know at one point they didn't. There were people who were quite well taken care of, doing quite fine before they did. For example, the forced integration of the communities. A whole lot of people's property values were quite decent. They were making good money.
Was that a good time for American healthcare, do you think?
It might have been, because they were subsidized by themselves and the wealth that they created, that rather than having the wealth destroyed by crime and all this overrunning system of people sucking off of the free stuff that we offer, it was people were on the whole more responsible already. So it wasn't overwhelmed as badly as it is today, and it wasn't so dishonest. The government has meddled in the the so-called healthcare industry, and these healthcare industries have meddled inside of the government and made things more corrupt and more expensive.
So the reason why I keep calling it a market failure is because, in comparison to
It's a socialist failure.
Well, I'm talking about the problem with American healthcare.
Right, it's too socialist.
The reason I call it a market failure is because if I wanted to buy a TV, ultimately I could be like, look, this TV behind me, it's old, it's not great, but it works. I don't want to go have to spend another $300, $400, $500 on this flat screen. It's not necessary. I can make the choice to stay home. I can make the choice to go to other options. I can make the choice to wait and save my money. That's me participating in a free market and making a conscious decision for my financial health as a consumer, right? And so that would be the market working as intended. But if I catch cancer, there is no, well, I'll just wait it out. Or, I'll just wait until I have another option. Or, you know what, I'll just get the other cancer treatment that I've got at home. Once you've got cancer and you need it treated, you have to get it treated or you die. There's no, well, I don't want to buy this new car, so I'll take the metro system and I'll just spend on that. And so that's a captive market. And so when you have a captive market, they're going to pay you whatever is necessary in order to get the healthcare services necessary to keep them alive, to take care of their children, still see their wife at the end of the week. They're going to do everything they can to survive. And that is where healthcare companies can gouge patients because they know they can't do anything. They have to pay it up. And that right there is a failure of the free market, a market failure where the consumer is at the whim of the healthcare company, which is why I think we need to strengthen the consumer protections around healthcare services in this country, as well as make a public option that's going to treat these people with respect. And that's just the first step, in my opinion. But I think it's a moderate compromise.
But my thing is the government and these companies don't care about the people. The government is part of the problem. They like people having cancer. So they have this problem that they can fund for cancer research for their self-important doctors and researchers, and they like the money being cheaper. Have you noticed that if
wouldn't the private companies in question, wouldn't they want there not to, just throwing this out there, and I'm just going to be straight up with you, I don't think the government is honestly like, yay, cancer. I don't think
they are. Are you kidding me?
I don't think that's the official stance of the government.
They love it.
If anybody was
they love
to be
people being
cancer,
desperate and sob stories so that they can swoop in and pretend like they're the ones saving you.
If there's any group on the planet that is team cancer, wouldn't it be the healthcare companies that profit off of treating cancer?
Yeah, the
year
doctors.
after year, month after month.
Exactly.
But aren't those
and those are the ones who are the most in bed with the government.
When you say most in bed with the government, do you mean they have dealings with the government? Because if the government was to separate more and more, these people would still profit immensely off of cancer treatment. They have a captive market. They are going to profit off of cancer.
Right, and they're encouraging people to do stuff, remain healthy.
How would the private market solve that problem?
Because it's not so much of a problem. They're not encouraging people to.
It's not a problem to have a captive market like that and to exploit it.
No, it's not a problem like that because if they truly cared about the people, they would be not making money so cheap, so worthless. If they cared about the people, they would be closing the border and getting rid of minimum wage and getting rid of all of these regulations that make it hard for people to afford to live and buy homes and own their own stuff so that they can afford to deal with their life and health. And encourage people to, they encouraged people to stay inside and live a sedentary life during the China virus. People gained like 10, 20 pounds, some of them, and their health was worse off. The government doesn't care about people, nor do the doctors. The doctors tend to be overcautious to the detriment of your health and life.
So I don't know how anybody could say that, people getting the disease or getting cancer, getting this and then being price gouged by healthcare companies isn't a problem. I do think it's a problem.
But that's partly because of the only way
that if you say it isn't a problem, then under this model, if I was to be like, guys, I got a blood infection from work, I got a rusty nail, it got stuck on my eyeball or something, I need treatment, and the healthcare company was like, great, okay, we'll just need your house.
Right, because we have a socialist system that has made it so people can't.
How is that socialism?
Because you've made it so that people don't own their own homes. They have to pay rent to the government every year. People's money.
So people would
people's
just
money
have enough
isn't
money
even,
to pay the price gouging if we didn't have socialism.
People's money isn't even worth anything. They've over-regulated and micromanaged in the health industry so that there's only select number of doctors who can treat you, and they've made it so bad. The doctors don't even believe in what's right anymore. They don't believe in do no harm. The doctors believe in the doctors believe in killing the babies and transgendering the people. You believe that these people are you believe that these people are honest and for what's right? We have a socialist system that's anti-Christian and anti-common sense and being able to take care of yourself. They've taken away freedoms and powers from people to take care of people. And you say...
I just want to say that the private free market has been very good at aborting many children.
That's not the private free market. That's in cahoots with the government.
That is the
That's
free
commie
market.
capitalism.
What do you mean? Many abortions happen under the free market.
They're subsidized by the government. All those companies
under the free government.
All those companies are subsidized by the government.
You think when they go super free ANCAP, they're going to outlaw abortion over there?
I don't know about that. I'm just talking about what the reality is. You're pretending like the government's not involved in that. They're definitely involved in that.
There's a few ways that they're involved. For example, I know that veterans, if they wanted to go to another state right now in order to get reproductive health care services, wanted to get an abortion, that the government will now pay for the transportation due to the fact that many states, they're no longer allowed to get abortions there. And as an employer, the federal government has to make sure that everybody can get the same health care services or there's a discrimination issue.
Isn't that insane? We should get rid of the anti-discrimination laws.
No, that's not. I don't think that's insane. I think it makes sense that an employer. That's insane, man. I think it makes sense that an employer would want to make sure that their employees have the same benefits across the board, despite the region.
But that's not a benefit. How is killing the baby a benefit?
It's health. It's reproductive health care.
That's not health care. Reproductive health care means help you have the baby. Doesn't mean help you kill the baby.
I don't think that's true. I think I've heard of many people.
It's not reproduction.
Many doctors
that's the opposite of reproduction.
Term. Well, I mean, you're using the healthcare professionals to get involved in the reproductive process. That's
right.
Reproductive healthcare.
That's not healthcare. That's insane. Wow. So you're using these communist euphemisms.
That's not communism.
I really think that you're a communist.
Hey, can you define communism for me?
Lies.
Well,
because
you know what?
You're dressed up as
you got me there.
Yeah, you're dressed up as this
fake. Me there.
You're dressed up as this fake reasonable person. Rationalizing killing the baby.
Person?
Yeah, like you're dressing it up as reasonable. Have you ever met
somebody on the coast before? Most people on the coast believe that abortion should be accessible to people.
Most people are blind, brainwashed, useful idiots for communism. Maybe you're a useful idiot for the communism thing. Like you,
I don't think
you're a true believer of this thing as a reproductive health. You are in your early 20s, right? So I understand.
I am in my early 20s.
I'm not looking down on you or anything, but I think that you're dressed up. It's like Obama was a communist, right? He dressed up in a suit.
We have not discussed any of the principles or anything of communism today. We have not discussed anything even remotely related to communism.
Yeah, overwhelm the system, break it down, and rebuild it in the communist image, universal healthcare and all that stuff.
So the communist image is Obamacare working with private healthcare companies.
That's a stepping stone.
Paid exorbitant prices for these drugs that they often price gouge. Is the Marxist view of communist healthcare development?
Right. Like you said, you brought up the so-called Social Security. That was that FDR. I think he was kind of a communist.
FDR, known Stalinist.
Yeah, he was a communist. Some people called him a fascist. Some people called him a communist.
Yep. Known Nazi sympathizer and Stalinist.
Yeah. Anyway, man, we're at the top of the hour. Speaking of gouging, I gouged you out of the first half hour of the Hake report. That was messed up.
If you want, look, I can do another half hour.
I appreciate it. Nice.
No worries.
I have a caller who wants to talk with you. Manuel in California. You guys can call in 1-888-775-3773. Manuel in California, you're live with Dylan Burns TV.
Hey guys, how you doing?
Doing well.
Doing okay.
I just wanted to comment on the like Medi-Cal, Medicare, whatever situation, Obamacare.
Yeah.
I know a lot of people that like screw the system. Like I grew up not in the hood, but lower income areas. And what they would do is that they would just not marry their wives and get on Medi-Cal, and then they get all the free benefits of food stamps, WIC, Medi-Cal. So they are taking from the system. And like back then, I was paying $500 a month just for my daughter's medical because I was working, unlike the others.
Wow.
And now I'm in a wheelchair. I pay $65 a month, and I get everything for free. Now that I don't have to supply and help pay for the system, it just overburdens it. Someone else still has to pay the bill. That's why there's price gouging. There's not enough people helping pay to keep the system at a steady level. You got too many people stealing from the system. And like a lot of these Mexicans too, like I'm Mexican. I know a lot of my family members do this.
Stay close to your phone.
Sorry.
Thanks.
They work here and they ship all their money back to out of California to Mexico.
Yeah.
And then keep all their get all free benefits here for free while they're not even paying taxes to help bring the burden down on the medical system.
You follow that, Dylan? Were you able to hear that?
Yeah, I heard that. Anytime there is a social service that's made widely available to people, definitely try to make it an expansive, universal program to try to address some public issue, whether it be lack of health care coverage or really housing, whatever it is. There are going to be instances where that system is abused. I don't know if the system has so much abuse that it's having a significant impact on the ability of the system to service other people. I don't know if it's that expansive. There is fraud, as there is with all social programs, but I don't know how expansive the fraud is when it comes to Social Security, or when it comes to Medicare, or when it comes to these programs specifically. It would have to be talked about on a program-by-program basis. But I don't know that it's expansive enough that it's having a real impact on the ability for Medicare to cover people. I do want to say, on these shows, often the stories that are highlighted are these stories where people abuse the system. But that's because, of course, it's very easy to overlook the stories where the people are helped by the system. I can say that personally, my own mother very much benefited from Obamacare. And when when Trump got elected in 2020, one of the concerns she expressed to me was, well, I think it was 2016, not 2020. When he got elected in 2016 was, I'm very concerned I'm going to lose my health care coverage and I'm not going to be able to cover for this. Yep. And she didn't have the ability to work. Her body was fucked up to all hell. Her bones were being eaten away and she was not able to go out and do that type of work. And so for every instance where you can describe, a person trying to grift the system, you're going to have 100 instances of people who legitimately need the system's help and was helped by the system. I think a great example of this would be the child tax credit. Were there people who got the money from the child tax credit and didn't spend it on their child, but instead spent it on, I don't know, lines of cocaine or something? I assume so. But 80 to 90% of the money that was spent from the child tax credit went towards mandatory expenses like groceries.
Wait, how do you know it's 80 to 90%?
Because we got those numbers. We got those numbers from the federal government.
Oh, Lord. You trust the federal government to be honest with these numbers?
I trust the federal government. By the way, 80 to 90% though, or good numbers for a program like that.
I know, but
it makes sense. Also, it makes sense because that was during COVID. People were struggling, so it made sense that the government went out, gave people that money to help them pay for their kids, and child poverty was reduced by 30 to 40 to 50% for a brief period in this country.
But that doesn't justify doing it in the wrong way. Like, you can help somebody, and yes, they are helped, but you're helping them in the wrong way. Most of the time, when you have the government getting involved, is by mama spirit do-gooders who feel sorry for these people and there's other ways that they would be taken care of, but there's no faith in God or honesty or fellow human beings and neighbors anymore.
What's the other way all these people are going to get taken care of when they get kicked off of Medicare and these?
Because Medicare was wrong to begin with.
Well, no, you said that if these people were all taken off these programs, they'd be covered by other things. Well, I've heard this before.
Themselves.
But I know that
this whole system has been wrong for like 100 years.
People and all the unbelievably poor people, they're just gonna find ways to cover the health care. So we're not gonna see an increase in the amount of people dying every year due to lack of health care coverage. I think we are gonna see an increase.
He's swimming in 100 years of communism and women voting and stuff like that.
Hake, have you ever, what communist author or theory or have you ever read anything?
I read the manifesto about, I don't know if it was the manifesto, but I read the thing about overwhelm the system, keep people off their heels, going outside of their area of expertise.
Use their emotions.
Divide and conquer. Divide and conquer through the natural fissures of black and white and men and women and working class and 1% and all that crap. Excuse me, all that crap. But we've had 100 years of women mama spirit voting, looking to the government to be the daddy, the provider, and micromanaging and meddling in people's lives when they should be just minding their own business. And we could be moral and free and the responsibility would win rather than cheating.
The world though isn't just everybody living on their lonesome, separate from everybody else.
That's not what I'm presenting though.
Well, that is reality. You live on your own regardless.
Well, the problem is though, the world affects us on a daily basis. For example, Russian invasion of Ukraine has impact on global grain prices. If there is a looting of a local store, that's going to impact your ability to go out and get groceries and feed your family at the end of the week.
Right.
If there's a strike at a local coal mine, that might affect your energy prices at the end of the week. Whether we like it or not, these things outside of what we can directly control do have an effect on our daily lives.
And the government's been the problem. The government's been the problem, and your solution is more government.
The problem is these
commie capitalist corporations
before these issues existed before Social Security. For example, elder poverty, massive issue still, but was an even more massive issue before Social Security was implemented. The implementation of Social Security saw a massive reduction in elder poverty.
I don't know that that's
people
true
were
though.
Abandoned by their children, unable to be taken care of, or their kids were too busy taking care of their own families, and so they did their best to make ends meet off of $50 or $100 or $150 a month during the Great Depression. What I said is absolutely true.
The Great Depression was a result of the mess with the communist stuff. Manuel in California, last word, go ahead.
You mean what? You mean the markets? You mean the market collapse was the communism?
Go ahead, Manuel in California.
Well, look at this whole social security and all this is like, what makes you think that the government knows what to do with your money better than you do? I would never give my money to the government to pay me back later. That's why I don't pay taxes. I have my own business. I avoid paying taxes at all costs. So I don't have to help pay this communism system that we have. It's a mess.
Yeah.
I'm not going to pay for someone else to live. I'll pay for myself to live, and you guys figure it out on your own. You die, you die. You live, you live. Welcome to America.
It makes sense. Back in the olden days, America was tough to live in, and a whole lot of immigrants came here, and it was tough, so they left and went back where it was to live easier lives. Now it's too cushy, and it's causing emergencies later down the road. It's like a shell.
Look,
collapsing.
I just want to make sure that this guy don't drive on my roads or my bridges that my tax dollars have been paying for. This freeloader on the phone right now, driving on all those public roads I pay for. I'm not happy about that.
All right, let me tell you some more then. So I make like over $100,000 a year, and I pay like nothing in taxes, and I pay $65 for Medicare since I'm disabled. Mm-hmm. So, like, you're still going to pay for all my stuff. You see how I'm not helping you at all, but you want that system in here to help who? It's not going to help you. I'm just going to steal money from you this whole time, right?
So you just came on to say that you're a thief and...
How's that a thief? How's that a thief?
Wait, you say, wait. You said that... He just said he's making $100,000 a year while also getting covered by Medicare.
He's stuck in the system that you're defending. So he's just using it the smartest way possible. That's not being a thief.
Wait. He said so.
What did I say?
He's
I
trying
grew
his
up in the
best to
hood.
not pay any taxes as possible, as few taxes to
exactly.
no taxes possible,
Which is legal.
Well, also, well, I'm not. Well, something can be legal, and I can still call it
All your
thievery of
Democrats are
censorship.
opposed
Oh,
to
okay.
the
So you
thing
just
that
want
way.
to attack him.
Well,
Right.
what do you mean? If I say like I don't want to pay it all into the system, but I want to take the benefits from the system,
That's-
I am 100% principled. I do look
exactly
at
what
that
you're
with a raised
arguing.
eyebrow.
That's exactly that's what you're arguing, though.
I'm saying that if he is saying I'm going to take money out of the system but pay nothing into the system, and I know that I don't have to take
He's
this money out of the
creating
system, I'm
value
just
in the
doing it.
world. If he's making
How is he creating
$100,000,
value?
but if he's making $100,000 in the world, he's not just a year in the world. If he's making $100,000 a year, he's somebody who's creating value in the world.
He could be an OnlyFans star. You don't know that.
I know that he's not an OnlyFans star.
He could be an
I'm in a
OnlyFans
wheelchair. I
star.
can't even get naked, bud.
number one feed account on
So you agree
OnlyFans.
with me that OnlyFans is a drain on society? It's evil.
I don't know if it's a drain on society.
Yeah,
or
it's
evil.
sick. It's bad for both of them.
Look, I'm desperate in a wheelchair, and I won't even marry an OnlyFans woman.
Nice.
No, I would rather be single and dead.
Interesting
my
call,
money
Manuel
on
in
that.
California. Last
right.
word, real quick.
No, go ahead. I'm just. I'll get going.
Thank you, man. Did you go ahead, Dylan? I feel like I'm cutting you off a bit.
No, I already forgot what we were talking about.
Okay, cool. Let's get to Justin in Fullerton, California. We're having fun here. Justin, you're live with Dylan Burns TV.
Hi, thanks for taking my call, Hake.
Yeah.
I was just wanting to say that when there was a big infant milk crisis recently, because of mismanagement, where the taxpayers give their money to the government, what happened? Mothers, had no milk or no formula. So those who did have milk, they shared it within the community. And so time and time again, whether it was a Great Depression or any kind of thing that Americans had to come together with, they did. But as soon as they give up their control to the nanny state, there lies the slavery. I guess if modern day slavery existed, it exists in the notion that not a penny that is paid, for services comes out of your own pocket. It comes out of the government. It doesn't make sense. Like the other caller said, he doesn't even pay taxes. So who's going to pay for everything? If taxes can only go so far to so many people.
Right. We should shrink the government so that it's not so involved in messing up our lives.
So as for the baby formula shortage, the shortage was a real issue. It had to do with the production lines. These companies, they had some production issue. And so that made it so a lot of working class people were unable to afford baby formula or had to make do with substitutes because of these companies failing to keep up the production process and keep it safe and efficient. And so what the government did that we're lambasting right now is imported 1 billion 8-ounce bottle equivalents of formula from abroad to ease the shortage as they fixed the issue before the baby formula shortage went back down and came back under control, relatively under control. So the government that you're criticizing for the baby formula shortage actually helped ease the baby shortage, the baby formula shortage, where the government, where the free market failed.
Yeah, interesting. Well, that's a common pattern that I see within, not only communist countries, probably a lot of different types, but for instance, North Korea. They have austerity measures that say, oh, we're limited. We don't have enough toilet paper. You may recall COVID. That's even what caused that shortage issue. It's overall mismanagement and authoritarian control.
How did the government cause the baby formula shortage?
Authoritarian control. COVID was to blame for it. If they didn't start the COVID measures where there was supposedly lockdowns in production, just like with oil.
Right.
We don't have enough oil, we have to manufacture it. So I think people have lost the notion.
Yeah, we don't have a free market. He blamed a free market failure, and it's not a free market.
So it was.
You
guys are just saying. Wait. You guys
go
are
ahead.
saying that the shortage was just due to the COVID lockdowns. That's what you guys are saying.
I think wasn't there something where some incompetent, probably foreign people in the factory corrupted the formula? And why are they using formula in the first place?
Wait. So why are we even why are we bringing up authoritarian COVID lockdowns? Why are we bringing that up?
Because we have authoritarian forced
totally
immigration.
Issue. It's not. It doesn't. It has to do with the
It's that too.
employees hired by the company corrupting and fucking up, sorry, excuse my French, messing up the
Oh,
baby
my God.
formula production process. And then the government comes in, deals with the shortage in the short term to help working class people, and somehow this is the government's fault again.
Yeah.
I disavow the notion of working class people. Go ahead, Justin.
No, I disavow. I'm going to hang up too. I can't handle this.
You
Have a good
can't.
day.
Come
Bye.
on, you're supposed to
Have a
have
good day.
patience with the. Oh, he hung up. Oh.
Well, us
You
liberals
broke
can
him.
be frustrating. You got to understand.
Say again.
Us liberals can be quite frustrating. You have
Yeah.
to understand.
We need to be have patience and deal with the lies with perfect patience and the
That's true,
half
that's true.
truths.
You need to guide me back to the way of light and truth and justice.
Indeed. I have some super chats to read so that we can
Awesome.
have you respond to them. Over on D Live, Dijon Paul said, Dylan is the perfect guest to forget. Duruti. D-U, hopefully it's not vulgar.
Is this a reference that I'm not getting?
F-U, Duruti. I don't know. Anyway, thank you, Dijon Pot. I think he was saying that when I forgot to bring you on, he said, oh, you're the perfect guest to forget. He's not a fan, I guess.
Damn, not a fan. Not a fan.
Strifecast donated a diamond. Canadians go to the States for cancer treatment, he says. Is that a fact?
Yep. I mean, yeah, they have universal state healthcare coverage. Yeah.
So they go to the United States?
Well, no, I thought he meant the state as in the government. But if he I mean, some very wealthy Canadians go to the United States to get healthcare coverage.
Yeah. We would be a much wealthier people. I mean, I don't really believe that there's anybody poor in America.
Nobody.
Yeah, but I think that they want us to be.
Can you expand on that? I'm sorry, you can't just drop. I've seen homeless people. Right?
I know, but they're not that poor. They're not hungry.
I mean,
Nobody's starving. No, have you seen a starving homeless person?
No, but there is an issue with childhood like a lack of nutritional options for children and having a real impact on their educational outcomes. Like when we say there's not like an issue.
But
with
whose
people
fault
on
is
the
that?
side.
That's the parents'
Isn't
fault.
like we're not seeing people with like children with bloated stomachs dying on the side of the road. Like
Exactly.
It's a classic famine. But when it comes to like children having good nutritional outcomes, making sure they're well fed before they go to school so they can fully concentrate on their classes, these are real issues that we still need to deal with when it comes to youth.
Shame
and
on the
homeless
parents.
people absolutely still have to deal with issues like hunger and homelessness and poverty in a real way.
Right, and they're being subsidized. We should defund the single mothers. I probably said that on your show before.
Probably.
because it's only when you subsidize something, you get more of it. You subsidize homelessness, you get more homelessness. You subsidize single mothers, you get more single mothers. We're subsidizing immorality and irresponsibility.
I don't think that's necessarily true. For example, the child tax credit did see a reduction in childhood poverty. It did see a mass, and that was not even a.
There may be some short-term stuff. That's
the
like
child tax credit was like I think a $500 child tax credit. It was while that's a sizable chunk of change. We're not talking about gigantic $2,000, $3,000 government handouts, and that was enough to have a massive reduction in child poverty. And a lot of people think when it comes to these programs that the program is designed to get people a job or designed in order to get people off of the system into the workforce. And I think that I think a lot of times people want the system to do something it wasn't designed to do. The system was designed in order to lessen the suffering of poverty, make it so that children are not going to sleep at the end of the night hungry, making sure that families have decent heating so they don't freeze during the winter. It's trying to make some of the most brutal realities of poverty less brutal. That was a lot of the purpose behind LBJ's Great Society program.
Boo.
I think that, yay, LBJ, woo. But I don't think that taking a step back, looking at these issues of poverty and the government trying to take a direct approach to them is going to encourage more poverty any more than I think that giving somebody a hand up when they have any medical issue or any other type of issue in their life is going to encourage them to continue to, have that issue. Can you explain to me
I can.
the mentality?
I
would
know
love to hear it.
I know what's going on. You're thinking that poverty is the problem. Poverty is not the problem. The evil spirit that leads to the poverty, the immorality.
You know, I
left
out the evil spirit when it came to my equation.
Is enabled to continue on, to live longer. Had you had that suffering, then you would, not you, but the general you, the person had that suffering, then that would whip their rear into shape. Shout out to the kids. Kids listen to Hake. And then they would grow rather than live cushy, comfortable slavery lives of communism.
If we have 10 plots of land and 12 trees, then there's going to be a problem there with how many trees get to grow, right? Or how well those trees are going to grow if we don't have enough plots of land for all of the trees. I think that setting the right conditions for people to succeed is very important when it comes to outcomes. In cities where there are lower amounts of crime, in cities where there are better educational resources, better funded public schools, better healthcare options, higher job employment opportunities, and there is just a safer environment, children grow up, unsurprisingly, to have lower participation in crime, higher standard of living, and being more productive in the workforce. I don't think that's particularly surprising.
But one doesn't cause the other.
Well, I don't.
You're describing white communities.
One second. I'm not only describing white communities.
You're describing beautiful white communities that were integrated by force and turned into ghettos. I'm describing
positive economic and social indicators. I'm not describing white community.
You kind of are.
I'm just.
Go ahead. Make your point.
God, what was my point?
I messed him up. Be patient with the truth teller.
Yeah. God dang,
okay, you were talking about children got better outcomes when they're rich.
Yeah, well, it's not necessarily when they're rich, but when they have they have a better environment.
Yeah.
They are going to have better socioeconomic development. If you have a plant and you try to grow it out in your backyard and you give it good sunlight, good water, all this stuff, that doesn't necessarily mean the plant's going to grow up to be healthy and mighty and strong. Plant might still die. Plant might not go well.
Right.
But the odds of it succeeding are much higher, and on average, you're probably going to have more success cases than failures. But if you make the environment for these youth, if you make the environment for these families destructive, and you don't make a good environment, and you just leave all of the market failures willy-nilly for people to be caught in them, I think you're going to allow people to fall into a lot of terrible outcomes.
That's because the government is trying to, I get it, the government is trying to artificially create the environment for success without having any root of the underlying roots of good morality and God and fathers and men and manly thinking and hands off. A father is hands off on the situation, and a child gets raised well and thrives like Arnold Schwarzenegger, whatever you think of him. The son who stayed with him is a strapping young man, whereas the child of the mother micromanages and meddles and spoils like mama spirit, communist government or socialist or whatever you want to call it, Democrat government.
If this was the case, wouldn't that mean that the communities where they have the highest levels of gang violence
and the child of the mother's fat?
Why wouldn't West Virginia be like one of the most successful states in the union then? If it's just the government has less interference, stay out of your lives, don't do anything, don't help you, don't interfere. Wouldn't those environments be those states be the most economically productive and not, last place?
I don't know necessarily.
Economic indicators.
Because money isn't everything, and thriving monetarily isn't necessarily.
Godly lives in West Virginia, that's for sure.
Are you sure? They're living godly lives in West Virginia?
Yeah, I mean, I have a lot of family in West Virginia.
Nice.
I spent a lot of my childhood in West Virginia. I love the state dearly, but it has a lot of horrible economic conditions,
like
from
the
coal
Appalachian
industry degrading, water pollution, to just decrepit buildings that have been abandoned over time, rotting out in communities across the state.
That doesn't sound very godly.
Well, you can have all those things happening and still be godly. You can be a godly people and still have like water that isn't the greatest. You're gonna be a godly people and have your jobs going away. You can be
Well,
a
the
godly
water doesn't
people-
have to be the greatest, but it's just decent water.
Yeah, drinkable water. Yeah,
Yeah.
I believe they deserve drinkable water.
Not
but you can have
deserve.
all these unfortunate things come to you, completely separate from your own from your own behavior or actions. The coal industry fell through. The coal industry is not what it used to be. That isn't something that the West Virginians could control. That was something that was completely outside of their control. They found economic failure not because they, strayed away from the light of God, but because international markets looked at their product and said, meh. And now everybody's leaving West Virginia. It's a state that's economically decrepit. And the government there is doing nothing to, I think, adjust in order to try to tackle the issue.
But you're bringing up some outside exception to the rule that may or may not be. You're probably not telling the whole story, which you don't know the whole story, and I can't comment on it because I don't know the details. But I happen to know that the coal industry didn't just fail by the free market; it was by these communists who are pushing this environmentalism stuff. Didn't Obama purposely undermine the coal industry? Too much in a hurry to save the fake environment? Well, the real environment.
Whether or not the government is encouraging more environmental methods of energy production, solar panels and their cost have been going down for years.
I know, but
solar
they're not.
panels are becoming cheaper and cheaper and cheaper, and it's getting to the point where they're going to be cheaper than other versions of energy production. And they're not the only
But they're
version
not
that is becoming
sufficient?
cheaper too. There's other ways of energy production like fracking and other things that have undercut
Nuclear.
nuclear that have undercutted coal. This isn't a thing that's just concentrated in America or America's communist policies. This is a thing that is everywhere. It's global, where all countries are kicking off coal to some degree, unless they kick off the other things like nuclear energy, which Germany had to deal with. But I don't think that it's communist energy production is how West Virginia got to where it is today. But my only point to you is that you can be godly, you can believe in God and have all the moral beliefs that you have right now, Hake, and still get caught in these market failures. And those types
I know,
of people,
but that's
you
what
deserve
men
to be
do.
helped.
Men take on the challenges and thrive and
Well, that's
overcome.
the thing. In many instances where people are trying to do that, for example, being manly, oh, my stomach hurts. I don't need to go to the doctor. I'm going to go work. A few weeks later, stomach cancer.
But that's a fake idea of manliness. You're giving caricatures of manliness because you don't know what it is.
But what I'm talking about is a real thing that happens when it
I
comes
know
to these
that.
market
Yeah, I know that.
failures. And if we allow the market to operate completely freely, those people are going to continue to die, and it's just going to happen statistically.
All right. I have more super chats, but I have some calls to get to. My favorite caller from the sundown town of Dayton.
I know we were going to talk about healthcare all day today.
Oh, I know we were going to talk. Okay, yeah, I'll let you get to a couple of other things. Mays in Ohio, speaking of healthcare, you're live with Dylan Burns.
Hello, Dylan. We was talking about West Virginia and the coal mines, those people that go down in the coal mines and have lung cancer and all of that.
Yep.
I mean, it's not their fault. It's the industry's fault. But the industry won't take care of them for having to go do all of that. And then all of the places that put out the pollution, those people should be responsible for those people. And then you hear people talking about health care. The charity care is funded by government, too. And if you have a back
the charity
problem,
care, you mean like people that are charities, like nonprofits?
Yeah, nonprofit hospitals.
They're funded by the government too?
Yes, they are. So they get government funding too. So if your back go out or something like that happen, and you go to them, you are getting government funding too.
Not me.
But then
I
don't look at it
have.
that way.
Hey, you have a pipe. You're turning into a man. Dylan Burns is smoking a pipe, the peace pipe. No, I'm kidding. Now, Mays, I have a Christian health share. So my health care is paid for by my fellow man.
Yeah, your fellow man, but it's not paid for by you.
Not the government. I mean, I paid for it, and then those guys reimbursed me.
Yeah, they reimburse you, but then they're non-for-profit.
I don't know.
Or are they not?
But they're not government funded. I don't know that much.
Well, really.
Yeah.
I'm quite sure they're getting funding from the government too.
How do you quite sure about that?
How do you figure? You pay taxes and I pay taxes. It goes to the government, and some do it for a tax write-off.
So you're going to say Samaritan Ministries and some of these other Christian health share organizations are funded by the government without even knowing it? You're just figuring.
That's why they're non-for-profit.
Do you know anything about this stuff, Dylan Burns?
I
don't know anything about the charity stuff, but when it comes to West Virginia, I do agree with her that a lot of these companies disregarded the health of their employees. Their employees' health was then heavily damaged by working in coal mines for 50 years, which I don't think I need to explain exactly why going underground. I know what you're saying, and I generally agree with you. But here's a question to Hake: if a company doesn't take proper care of their employees and puts them to work in extremely dangerous conditions, and they get black lung while they were trying to put food on the table for their families, do you think that the company should be held liable to make sure that they pay for that person's coverage or make sure that they're well taken care of? If you don't want the government to do it, then should the government make the company do it?
It depends on the situation. Like the employees,
like black lung, for example. Guy catches black lung working in the West Virginia coal mines for the coal mine company.
Who knew that was a risk?
Well,
I would assume that everybody kind of knows that is a possible risk of employment, just like somebody going into the service knows that getting shot probably is a risk of working in the army.
Yeah. So I don't know what the answer is.
But we do. Do you think that if somebody dies,
I don't even know what black lung is, but I know that
black lung is a disease that you get from working underground in the coal mines, from all the inhalation of all the chemicals and toxins.
And then it's just like the pollution in all the other states.
I mean, you
can't really breathe, and you kind of suffer for a long time, and then you die.
Basically,
can't really function in life for a long time. Yeah. Man, that's terrible. Basically. I don't know the answer to that. Yeah. I mean, I think the local.
But this is the market failure that I'm talking to you about. It'd be much more profitable for the company.
But this is not Christian.
Just say, I don't want to care. I don't care about you. Profit is profit. Get out of my office. I need to go have another rhino ivory implant. You get what I'm saying.
I think that the employers could stand to be more Christian, perhaps. But there's also this robbery of the community to look out for people in real, actual desperate situations like that.
You blame the people for this.
But we're talking about West Virginia.
The community.
There's not a lot. I mean, when we say the community in West Virginia, who in what community are they going to be able to? The Mountain Mama people don't have all that money to invest in the infrastructure investments that are necessary. That's going to have to come from, in large part, the federal government.
Whatever.
So can I finish?
Yeah.
In other words, you look at your politician that's making the money, but the people can't get anything, and then they're supposed to be voting in order for them to get good health care. But they don't do that. They got better care than the people that they fight against. And also, James, when it comes to West Virginia...
What did you say? Say that last part?
They have better health care than the people that they're supposed to be representing.
Who does?
The politicians.
I know. They should be defunded. We should defund the politicians, too.
You should be upset with them.
I am.
Terrible idea.
But
terrible idea to defund the politicians?
Well, this is the problem I have, because I remember when I was first getting interested in politics, I was interested in, how legislators live their life, and I worked as a page in the Maryland Senate.
Uh-huh.
And I actually I got my cane swung at me by the Senate President, Mike Miller, the longest serving Senate President in the country. So I think I did a good job.
So you've gotten beat up by the Proud Boys,
the Democratic establishment,
and the politicians. DC.
I tell you, two of a kind.
It's the swamp itself.
When I was working there, something that really shocked me was how many people were kind of working in state politics, seemingly because they just kind of could. They had the money. They could invest their own money into their work, and they could take the time off of work. They could afford to.
Yeah.
Or a lot of working class people, teachers, and people from, and I know you don't like the word working class, but you know what I mean, middle income Americans, right? They find it a lot more difficult because it's hard to take time off of work to get into politics, because you don't make a lot of money as a Maryland legislator. It's like if you're taking a ton of time off of work to make $5,000 to $10,000 a year. I mean, that could be economically devastating for certain families, definitely raising 3-4 kids. So I'm of the belief that if someone becomes a legislator, we should consider paying them a full-time salary to work a full-time's wage. And that means a lot less breaks, but it also means that working class people could more easily participate in politics. We don't just leave it to the ultra wealthy and the lobbyists.
I think it should be the people who have earned it. If they haven't earned the ability to have that kind of time off, they don't belong imposing on our lives.
They have to be wealthy in order to run for office.
Nice.
Yes.
Yes.
A terrible idea. I mean, but then don't you think if we just have a concentration of all wealthy people controlling the country, that they might just look out for the interests of the wealthy people and not the
That's why we
people?
That's why we shouldn't be a full-time job where they're busy bodies trying to impose on the rest of our lives. They should limit their powers.
If everybody had their own business,
Sorry, I don't want to interrupt the caller.
Themselves,
Yeah.
we wouldn't have to deal with this and somebody else getting rid of somebody else's labor.
Huh?
And that's not fair. For someone to get rich off someone else's labor, that's not fair.
How so?
They're getting rich, but you're doing the job.
Because they gave you the job.
It's not like
they had the sense to give you the job. You didn't have the sense to make that job yourself.
To give you the job.
Break your chains. We're
Yeah,
in the revolution now.
But then when I talk about the coal man, the coal man is going like the cotton. The cotton, when people used to go to the field and pick cotton.
Yeah.
So is the coal man going that way because they didn't have sense enough to make technology for machines to go do the coal, and instead of using humans, so they wouldn't get black lung disease and all of that. That's what happened to the coal man. This is like when you go to make a phone call and you got to speak to somebody in another country, not this one. That's not our fault, and we didn't do it. Somebody did it, but y'all always complain about what's happening here.
I zoned out and I lost your point.
Came and took over this country, and y'all don't know it yet. You're going to get it.
The communists took over the country and we don't know it?
No, a communist is one person ruling the whole country, like Putin and Netanyahu.
No, that's a dictatorship.
They're making the money and the people not making anything.
No, I'm for dictatorships over communism any day. Or democracy.
That's why you won't go far in life.
Huh?
You would not go far in life.
What did you say, Hake?
I said I'm for dictatorships over communism or democracy.
Really? Uh-huh.
Yeah.
So anyway,
wait,
Okay.
okay.
So the coal man's going the same way.
So in one instance, you're telling me I'm sick of the nanny state. I want the government out of our lives.
Right.
The government out of here. And now next statement, it's I would rather a dictatorship than a democracy.
Yeah. I mean, think
Can
about.
explain?
Can you?
What would you get out of it?
Correlate those two worldviews for me?
Because
Could you explain it for me?
A dictator is usually going to be competent. He has to have some level of competence to be able to dictate.
That's not necessarily true, but I see what you're saying.
Yeah, well, right. I mean, there's exceptions to the rule. Depends on the dictator.
Who says right depends on who's trying to dictate.
Yeah, and then the democracy. Most of us are total idiots. Why do you want the rule by the mob to impose on everybody?
I'm gonna take the view of I'm gonna ask some radical authors to guide me here. A guy called Benjamin Franklin and a few other of our founding fathers to give me a little bit of guidance when they were creating this republic. Just because somebody's a dictator and they're competent and competent enough to control the country, doesn't necessarily mean that they're competent in the work of statecraft or the work of actually governing the country. I think a great example of this in our modern times would be Bashar al-Assad. This is somebody who originally was an orthodontist who was hoisted to power after his older brother died in a speed fest during the middle of the night as a speedster to both of their father, Hafez al-Assad. When Hafez al-Assad died, Bashar al-Assad took over, and the country has been a mess. He was unable to suppress protests. He brutalized protesters, bombed the country. Country's torn to shit. But he's competent at getting at diplomacy enough to get allies to help fight his war, and he's competent enough as a dictator and brutal enough, competent enough in brutality to stay in control. Does that mean he's the best guy for the situation? Best guy for the country just because he's competent enough in that area? He's not competent when it comes to the economy. He's not competent when it comes to healthcare or anti-corruption. His government is the very essence of corruption, but he's competent at holding on to power.
That's Syria. Syria used to be really nice, and I'm not sure if you are giving me or even know the whole truth about what's going on over there. But anyway, you might be right. That may be a bad dictator.
When was? I mean, I think Hafez al-Assad was also horrible. When you say Syria was nice, when was? Nice in what way? Like nice as in peaceful, as in there isn't an active war going on, or nice in the way that, oh, what a great place to live? Because Hafez al-Assad was not the nicest leader.
I just know that I've known some Armenians, and the Armenians liked Syria. It was fine to the Christians, and it was a fine place to live.
Syria is a secular country. And so ostensibly what that means is that religious minorities are not like killed or burnt at the stake or something like that was the idea.
Right.
But the problem is that Bashar al-Hafez were also, they were both pretty sectarian in favor of the Alawites, but putting that aside, they were also horribly brutal towards their people. For example, Bashar al-Assad in 2004, there was a football match in the north of the country between a Kurdish team and I'm saying Kurdish, but it was like local teams, but the area is Kurdish, so it ends up being a Kurdish team. So I'm just describing it because if I told you a town, you'd be like, I don't know what that means. A Kurdish team, and it was, I believe, a Sunni team or a Sunni Arab team, and they were going against each other. And the Sunni Arab team, this was right after Saddam kicked the bucket, held up a picture of Saddam Hussein and was like, yay, yay, yay. Saddam Hussein had gassed and genocided the Kurds. It was meant to piss them off. It'd be like going to a match between,
blacks and whites and putting up. Okay, yeah. I get your point.
You get the idea. And so it pisses off the Kurds, so they start brawling. They fight.
Hold on, Maze. Let me just let him finish, and then you say something.
I'm sorry. The story is important because people don't know about pre-Civil War history. They brawl, and eventually it becomes a big protest because the Kurds feel mistreated. And this was like just an example of this mistreatment that they felt in that society, and they ended up tearing down a statue of Hafez al-Assad, who they saw as an oppressor of their people. Bashar al-Assad got very angry because his father had died 4 years earlier, so he sends down tanks, guns, troops, murders a bunch of men, women, children, captures children and women, tortures them in his prisons camps, which has been a staple of his regime ever since, has been the torturing of men, women, and children. In fact, it was the torturing of a child, a 12-year-old child in 2011 that helped start this whole thing off in the first place after his body was dumped on the side of the road after a late-night torture session because he put out some anti-government graffiti.
See, we should not encourage anger. We should not have anger. Because look at all the horrors that come from anger.
That's a takeaway.
But that's an interesting story. Okay, Maze, go ahead.
Oh,
last point.
When the man can travel with the body to different places, you know different things. But if the man and the body in one spot, you know nothing.
Yeah. So are you saying that Dylan Burns knows stuff that Hake doesn't know because Dylan Burns is in Ukraine and everywhere else?
His man is going with his body in different places. He know different things.
All right.
Hey, you teach me something new every show.
Have a good one. You learn something new, but if you're staying in the same spot, you're going to keep the same conversation going.
Nice. Thank you. You too, Mace. Appreciate it. Man, okay. We got 10 minutes. If you're able to hang through here.
Of course I'll hang through it. I mean, I got an invitation to the Hake Report. I got to be here till the end. It's the Hake Report, for goodness sake.
Indeed. David in Ocala, Florida, is on the line with Dylan Burns. David, go.
Hello, Hake and Dylan. Hey, Dylan, I just want to ask you, what do you think about this immigration with this open border and like 12,000, 20, 25-year-old illegals coming into the United States every day?
Was it 25,000? Was that the most recent number?
No, I said 12,000.
Oh, yeah.
Who's going to pay for these people?
Who's going to pay for these people? Well, I guess
that's
kind of. Well, that's
who's going to pay for their health care? Who's going to pay for their health care?
Probably nobody. I mean, it depends. If you don't have Social Security, then unless you engage in Social Security fraud, which you can't do unless, you can do if you break the law, of course. But they would have to engage in Social Security fraud, and then in order to take advantage of, I think, healthcare benefits. So they would have to do that first.
So they're not undocumented; they're fraudulently documented.
Well, the thing is, if you're an undocumented immigrant, and I don't know how, I don't know if you guys have ever engaged in healthcare fraud before.
No,
Hake, have you done that before?
No, I didn't have to.
No, okay.
I did the Christian health share thing.
What a square! You haven't even engaged in healthcare fraud. But in order to do that as an undocumented person, you have access to very little benefits. I think SNAP So I think like when it comes to like childhood nutrition, because they don't want like the child to starve, there's like very few health benefits. In order to get most healthcare benefits, you're going to have to engage in Social Security fraud.
What about
so it's not
what about emergency room?
I'm talking about
I think
now,
you
man.
can get an immediate emergency room treatment, but you're still going to be footed. You're still given the bill. You'd have to skip on the bill in order for somebody else to have to pick that up.
If you're undocumented, they can't track you down. You have no identity.
I mean, that's why they would have to skip in order not to pay, but they would still be fitted with a bill, just like they would fitted with any of their other bills. Because if you're undocumented in the country, that doesn't mean you probably don't have some sort of an address or some sort of a place that you live or somewhere where you pay some sort of a bill for like electricity, water, heat, stuff like that. But I mean, again, when we say gonna cover them, that assumes that they're all coming over and they're gonna all
Aren't
just
they giving Obamacare to illegals?
My only point. Let me finish.
Okay, go ahead.
My only point here is that it's not like they're all jumping the border, immediately getting Social Security guards, and then just going down to the healthcare center and saying, you know, hey, could you give me an abortion? Or like, hey, give me free healthcare. A lot of these people are coming here specifically to get work, so they can work, so they can make money, so they can then take that money and send it back to their families overseas or start a new life here. A lot of it can't be on one hand, they're coming here to just steal and take and take. All the Social Security programs, all the social programs are going to take all of our money and they're going to steal everything. Well, also, they're going to work so hard and they're going to take my jobs because they work for less money because they're such hard workers. And so are they thieves? Are they hard workers? They're not necessarily hard workers. They're a diverse people. There are all sorts of people coming across the border.
Indeed.
And so when we say who's going to pay for these people, in many instances, it's going to be themselves.
No, it's going to be the taxpayers, okay? Because the taxpayers are paying for them right now in those hotels in New York, and I guarantee you,
that's what that charge on my card was. It said Juan, and I didn't know what it meant.
This isn't funny. This isn't funny, man, because there's not enough jobs for these people. There's not enough restaurant jobs. There's not enough, even if they wanted to build houses, there's not enough jobs for these people. And so this is a plan to just water down this country more, to take America out of the deal, you know, to usher in, you know, what do you think about a one world government? Would you like that? Would you like that?
A one world, okay.
No, go ahead and respond to the first thing first. I want to hear you
respond to the first thing before we talk about globalism.
Because we have to end pretty soon here.
Yeah.
Okay.
So as for the first thing, I don't know where you're getting your unemployment data from, but we have a pretty low unemployment rate at the moment. I think we're at like 2.9% or 2.8%.
That's a joke. You really believe that?
Wait. Let him finish.
Okay.
Hey, this isn't funny. This isn't funny. We can't laugh at this. Don't laugh. Don't laugh at this. This isn't funny. But when it comes to the unemployment data, we do have available jobs. Part of the reason people are coming here is because there are jobs. If there weren't jobs here, they wouldn't be coming here in the first place. But we do have a relatively low unemployment rate, and I do think that we should get the border relatively under control. I think we need to hire more immigration judges. I do think there needs to be some more investment in security at the border. But even if I don't agree with all the Republicans' solutions for the border issue, but at the end of the day, we do have a relatively low unemployment rate.
I think that we need to get rid of the birth control stuff so that we would have babies, so we don't need to rely on these immigrants to come in here and change our culture and our civilization.
Wait. See, isn't this interesting? On one hand, we don't have a low unemployment rate. We have more than enough workers. But then when we come over to Hake here, in the same perspective, in the same universe,
right.
Also we need to have more babies because we need more people because we need more workers. But also they're taking our jobs. We only have so many few jobs. How does that live in the same universe?
There's different issues in different parts of the big country that we're living in, I guess.
Ain't that the truth?
The issue is we need to take care of America first, and the world has been sponging off of us, okay, for way too long.
That's not true. Come on.
Oh, sure.
I mean,
how old are you? How old are you, Dylan?
I'm 22.
Okay, well, I'm 58, okay? And do you realize this country's been in some kind of war, some kind of conflict since World War II every 15 years, okay?
Yeah, but
and
much of
now
that
we're
was,
in
but that
another
was,
one, which is a big money grab. That's what
war are we?
Ukraine
Wait,
thing
we're
is.
in a war. What war are we in?
Well, we're
Proxy.
sending them money. Might as
Okay,
well.
so we're not. So okay, well, okay. I think it's a little different. American boys living and dying. I think there's a big difference there.
Well, that was
but
in Iraq.
As for a lot of those wars, many of those were for our own interests and were self-interested wars, where we're trying to support our allies for our own trade or economic interests, or to support our own alliances, which is within the national security interest of the United States, for both selfish, immoral reasons and perfectly reasonable reasons. And all throughout the last, hundreds of years of the United States. The United States has existed for a long time, so we'd have to go by war and decide which one made sense for America to participate in, which ones didn't. Yugoslavia versus Iraq, for example, like comparing these two different incursions. As for us subsidizing the world, this is a huge misconception in American politics. I really want to take on, and I want to grab by the horns more as a content creator, because if you poll Americans believe we spend on average between 20 to 25% of our federal budget on foreign aid, which is massive numbers. If you believe,
I don't think that's the case, huh?
If you believed anything like that, then your immediate conclusion would be, anytime you ran into any economic trouble as an American or as a country, would be, well, just give us 10% of the stuff we're giving to the Iraqis, or just give me 10% of the stuff we're giving over there. The number is closer to 1%.
Yeah, I think we should get rid of the social programs.
On average,
social spending is like 60-something% or more. But man, I gotta end. David and Ocala, appreciate your call.
Hey, can I just say one quick thing?
Real fast.
Okay. Remember, they said Vietnam, they were trying to stop communism, okay? And that was a lie.
I know.
So
they were trying to stop communism.
59,000 American men died over LBJ and his bull crap in this government.
Whoa.
So one day you'll get a little older, and these light bulbs will start going off in your head like they did with me, and you'll start seeing the big picture. Anyway, thanks, Hake, for having me on, and y'all have a great day. Take care. Bye.
Thank you. Bye. Go ahead, Dylan. Closing remarks. And respond to that if you want.
I mean, he already left. The thing is, I don't like bickering back and forth with someone once they already left, because it's like they're gone. You know? It's like,
but
what do I?
Still make your brief point, because whatever.
The Vietnam War was over communism. We didn't trust them because they were communists. In fact, the Vietnamese had a bad relationship with the Chinese for a long, long time in their history. And there is some reason to believe that Ho Chi Minh, and I think good reason to believe, that he didn't like the Chinese particularly as much because he was a Vietnamese nationalist over anything else. But we weren't willing to work with them because they were communists, and we didn't like the communists very much. But it was over communism. That doesn't mean it was right, but it was like dominated by communism in fear of the domino effect. Once Vietnam fell and the rest of the area fell. As for me needing to get older, I feel that even though I am quite young, I do have probably a more personal relationship with war. I've seen war probably on a closer level than most people realize or have experienced themselves. That's not true for everybody, but that's true for a lot of people. And I don't know how many more years I'm gonna have to be on this earth for me to have seen like the death pits or many of the awful things that happened there, and that for to change my mind about whether we should be involved or not. Or of the history of the transatlantic alliance and how important Europe is for export trade, or how important Europe has been for our national security when it comes to being part of a larger alliance that allows us to not be the one just massively spending like double to triple what we would have been militarily on our self-defense spending if we didn't have allies during the Cold War. I mean, I think that it makes sense.
How do people find you, Dylan Burns? I appreciate it, man. I got to end this thing. I have Joel Friday TV coming up next.
Okay.
Go ahead.
People can find me at Dylan Burns Live or Dylan Burns TV. Those are my two YouTube channels. Dylan Burns Live is where I do my daily stream stuff. Dylan Burns TV is for my journalism stuff. And I wrote an article recently in UPI about the artillery war that I hope people go check out if you guys want to learn more about artillery production and the conditions that Ukrainian artillerymen are facing on the front.
Where do they find that?
At UPI. It's a news outlet.
Okay. Dylan Burns, I appreciate you coming on, man. We'll talk again. Merry Christmas to you. And Happy Hanukkah or whatever. Everything else. You're
Merry
over in
Christmas.
Ukraine still, huh?
Nope, I'm back in America.
Oh, sweet.
I'm back in the States until March, and then I head back again.
All right. Well, take care, man. Have a happy new year if I don't see you between now and then.
You too. Bye-bye.
All right, bye. Guys, this has been the Hake Report. Adios, America. Joel Friday TV coming up next. This is Verona, Carol of the Bells. Adios. Bye.
Hark how the bells, sweet silver bells, all seem to say, Verona.